Hi, welcome to our community. Susie Thomas with you this morning, and we are finishing up actually this week of learning about the Christian schools in our area. We are extremely blessed to have some wonderful Christian education in our community. Visiting with us this morning is Dr. Joe Beeson from Lake Center Christian School. Good morning.
Good morning.
And you have been there how many years now?
This is my third year being with Lake Center.
And you have such an interesting background. Your path has been fascinating. For people who are not familiar with you, let us know that again.
Well, I came here from South Korea, and before that I was in Singapore. So my wife and I served 11 years overseas. We got to the point in our life where it was, okay, Lord, what's next? I had been with Dayton Christian Schools, pretty large Christian school system, for 18 years. And just felt like it was time to do something else. So we went into Christian education and served overseas.
That's got to be a calling as well. Everything you've done, you've had to have felt just a very strong urge and calling. What drew you to that?
It was interesting. My son had already looked into that. He had graduated from university and was praying about opportunities, and I knew of a Christian school mission organization that actually used international Christian education as an outreach. And most Christian schools in the United States are more discipleship. They work with Christian parents who want their son or daughter to grow up knowing the truth and be strong in the Lord. Many of these schools overseas are outreach-oriented in that they accept students who are not believers, but whose parents want the value of an education that is in English, that prepares them for a high school diploma so they can go to university in the United States. And if you have a quality program, they'll allow you to teach their child Bible. And so it's a great inroads into those families.
I've noticed that happens sometimes when families move into the United States as well. The idea of sending a child to a Christian school. I know of Muslim students who have gone to Christian schools because of the quality of the education. You find that as well?
We find that as well. We recognize that their students are going to be cared for. Typically, those schools have a smaller teacher-pupil ratio, and it becomes a real draw for them.
In those countries, when you're working with the parents and they're not bringing their children up in a Christian home, but they know that their child is in a Christian environment all day long, what kind of conversations happen? How do you navigate those relationships and friendships that build?
I think that's the key, the friendships you build. We honor them for who they are. We recognize that many times their religion is mostly cultural. They're brought up as a Muslim. They're brought up as a Hindu. They're brought up with, Japanese Taoism or something like that. And so they're open to conversations about other opportunities, but we just build that community. We let them know that they're welcome at school. They're welcome to come and see what's going on. We get them to volunteer. And interestingly, God always gives that core of Christian parents. In Singapore, we had a pretty good number of missionary kids. In South Korea, it was a number of Christian parents whose husbands were in business of some sort who had relocated to Seoul. But then those parents reach out to those unbelievers and bring them into the fold, and eventually you have some coming to Christ.
Our culture here in the United States, there's two things that it's almost become uncomfortable for many people to talk about. That would be religion and politics. You just keep those off the table and talk about anything else. When you find in other countries that people are very open to talking about religion, is that what you experienced?
That's what I experienced. It's as though God is an okay conversation, because most societies recognize there's a creator, there's a supreme being. And interestingly, when I first started serving in Russia, I would go in about 3 weeks a year and work with public school teachers to teach them a Christian ethics curriculum that they were using. We started that in 1991.
Let me go back. In Russia?
Yes, right after the wall fell.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes. It was through the International School Project, which was a part at that time, and I think still is, of Campus Crusade. And then the Association of Christian Schools and some other organizations said, wow, this country is wide open now. And how do you reach students? It's with education. So they developed a character curriculum around the Jesus film, which is a very popular film.
Right.
Was translated into Russian, and we would take that into a school and do a 3-day conference with teachers in the morning talking about philosophical ideas of God and the universe and truth. And in the afternoon, we would work with teachers in smaller groups with this Christian ethics curriculum and have an opportunity for them to take it and use it then in the public school.
And their response to this was?
Just very positive. They were so thankful we were there. They were thankful that we were actually giving them materials, because under communism they had so few materials for their students to use. And so they were blessed, and many of them came to Christ. And actually we did some follow-up work years later, and in some of those cities now there's Christian teacher organizations that are supporting one another as they use this Christian ethics curriculum in the public school.
What do you see are differences and similarities from what you've done overseas compared to here at home?
I think some of the similarities are that whenever you recognize that you care about people, that they respond. When you show them love, when you show them concern, let them know that you do really care about their children and what happens to them, that's similar around the world. People respond to that, parents respond to that. Of course, the difference, I think, just right offhand, is typically overseas, parents are very concerned about, is my child going to get into university? And it becomes almost a driving force for them, and they equate their child's worth to how well he does in school.
Across the board? Across
mostly
socioeconomic?
Southeast Asia, yes. Yeah, across the socioeconomic scale there. And no matter what level, they're driving their kid to make sure they do well on a test. And that, unfortunately, is beginning to drift here, but in most Christian schools, I don't see that's the driving force.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's take a look at Lake Center.
Okay.
And you walk inside those doors, and right away you are hit with a certain environment. You feel it. You feel it as soon as you step on that campus, I'll call it.
Yes.
Talk about that.
It's interesting, and it is that school climate that we recognize is so important. Again, you come in and there's a mural there, or actually a ceramic mural that talks about kind of the history, where the school came from, its background, and 70 years of people saying Christian education is important and the body of Christ is important. And these men 70 years ago that started this school recognized, we might have a Mennonite background, but the Mennonite background is one of peace and love and reaching out to others. And that's kind of what's carried on through the years. And it is a sense of peace, and we try to foster that in everything we do.
Students who attend, not necessarily from the Mennonite church, you have how many denominations now at this point?
130 churches represented in our student body.
Wow.
A big variety. And it's interesting, I would say that those from the Mennonite church are pretty much a minority, probably 12 to 15%.
And chapel services are a staple there. Talk about those.
Yes, it's really a great worshipful time. We have a campus pastor that's been there a number of years, and as he's worked with the kids through the years, they learn these worship songs. They enter into them wholeheartedly, becomes a part of who they are. Parents say they hear them singing these songs in the car on the way home, and then take God's word and bring it down to their level and share it with them. So every Friday, chapel's pretty special to us.
We just finished the Christmas season, and there's nothing like really getting any school. It's fun to go and the Christmas programs and so forth. But boy, when the focus is truly on the birth of Christ.
Yes.
Oh my, can you address that a little bit?
Yes, I often, actually in my parent memo this time, I reminded parents that it's sort of when I see those kindergarten, first and second graders singing about the birth of Jesus Christ and what that means, and ringing the bells and talking about his birth, the Christmas spirit comes on you, and you recognize this is what Christmas is about. It's not about the presents. The kids are all dressed in their finery. They've got these huge smiles, and they're excited to sing about the birth of Jesus.
Yeah. Academically, Lake Center is just awesome. Let's talk about your teachers and the academic programs available.
Really a quality school. We recognize the importance of having great teachers, and our teachers are all licensed through the state of Ohio. We recognize the importance of reaching out to students that at all levels. We talk about diversity. We have students that are involved in high school and college credit plus classes. We're branching out to offer many of those on our campus. So some of our faculty are adjunct professors at local universities. We also have a program that works with another university. We're only one of 7 schools in the state of Ohio. It's kind of a hybrid for a college course that's happening on our campus, as well as 7 other Christian schools around the state. So we really recognize that innovation is important. A strong one-to-one technology program for grades 7 through 12. And we recognize that learning can happen in a lot of different ways, and it doesn't just happen now in the walls of our school. It happens anywhere. And so that's the key, learning anywhere, anytime, anything. And kids can do that, and we want them to understand that they can do that.
I think people would be very surprised to know how cutting edge Lake Center has been. Let's take a look at that technology. You were among the first to bring in smart boards and some of those exciting things. Let's talk about that.
Yes, it really was a step and something that we think is important. And so we're now working on some digital media classes so kids can take the media and use it effectively on their own. And so it's important to us. We've now spread our iPad program down the elementary so that there are class sets of iPads. There's class sets of Chromebooks for 5th and 6th grade, and the kids are using them for their science fair projects, for their research. And so it is important to us that teachers recognize they can use technology effectively, not just for bells and whistles, but for learning. And we think that's what's important.
Can you imagine if going back to the early 1900s, if they could see children today holding something that looks like a slate,
yes,
but they could see what that does? Wouldn't they be surprised?
Oh, they would be surprised. They would sort of fall off their benches.
I think so. You were talking about certification. Teachers in Christian schools also have a little extra certification, yes, the ACSI.
Correct.
What is that?
Well, we're part of an organization called the Association of Christian Schools International. It's the largest Christian school organization in the world. And as a part of their certification, teachers have to take so many Bible classes as well as a Christian philosophy of education course. And once they complete this, then they're able to get their certification from ACSI. So yes, all of our teachers have that. We are accredited by Advanced Ed, which is the secular accrediting agency, as well as the Association of Christian Schools International.
So it might be intimidating for some to hear you and say, oh, I would just really like for my child to have this opportunity to go to a good Christian school. I don't know that they are super duper. Do you take your average Joe as well?
We
or
do.
Is everybody college bound?
No, we take the average Joe. Diversity is important to us, and we reflect the general population. About 10% of our students receive some sort of special services support, either through a special services tutor or maybe an instructional specialist. But we do have a special needs program that deals with those students, and they're tested, and actually if they need extra help, they're able to get a IEP through their local district, and we work with them. And so it's a pretty good program. And interestingly, for those students that are on IEPs, the state of Ohio has said that funding goes with the student, doesn't go with the district. So if that student wants to come to a Christian school and he has special needs, oftentimes that IEP then comes with him, as well as then the funding. So they get some state funding to enable them to have a scholarship at a Christian school or a charter school or whatever school the parents choose.
Very good to know. I don't think everyone's aware of that. That's good information. We've got to take a short break. We're visiting with Dr. Joe Beeson from Lake Center Christian School. We'll be back after these words. You're listening to Our Community.